Welcome to another healing conversation brought to you by acoustichealth.com. I'm Lauren Galy, and I am here with Masati, who is a very powerful healer and a very interesting story. Share with us the near-death experiences that you had changed your life and brought through some amazing healing abilities.
Yes, fantastic, and thank you for inviting me on your show. Very briefly, I'll just take a couple minutes. The first near-death experience happened to me in my 20s. We were in a warehouse job unloading rail cars, and inside these rail cars they have these moving walls that go back and forth, just to hold that product in place. Well, one of them was stuck, and I offered to climb up. And if you can imagine these moving walls on rails, I started pulling, my team members started pulling from the bottom, and then it all of a sudden gave way. And it just slid across this rails, and this half-ton wall. The only thing that stopped it was, well, my jaws. I was crushed between the wall and the members that keep the rail car in place. And from that point on, it was unusual because I was seeing my life, or actually my body, from a different perspective. I wasn't seeing my body from, you have that mental imagery of yourself, but I was looking at it as if I was looking at a mirror. And I was going, that's really unusual that my body or my neck is kinked in such a way, because I thought it would hurt. And I'd go, God, you'd imagine it would hurt. And then I realized it didn't hurt, and I was wondering, I was wondering why. And then it dawned on me, it's like, oh, I must be dead. And, at the time, it's like you kind of feel your body, and it's like, it's kind of gone. It's just that mental space that's there. And then the next thing that happened, it's like I turned around, and when I realized that I was dead, there was no sense of panic. It's like the sudden calm that comes over you, that sudden sense of clarity that comes over you. And, I started ascending right through the rail car, right through the metal, and I could kind of feel it as I went through, which was, it's like, just like walking through walls. It was that. And at that point, I relived my whole life. And the amazing part is, you say, your life flashes by before you, and it does. But in reality, guys, that point of flash, and that's all you remember. But in reality, I lived from 0 to 20-something in that flash, and you literally relive all the experiences. It's not like you see snippets of it.
All the feelings and emotions.
All the feelings, all the joy, even the negative aspects was through eyes of joy and love. It was amazing, and that's one of the biggest things I remember. It's like, the darkest times, of my life. It's like, you just felt it through a life of like gratitude and love. And then after the jaws got healed, everything was brighter, everything was three-dimensional, because in the spirit space, everything is clarity. It's like watching high-def television, really, in this lifetime. I started getting little bits of future vision, and I used that to expand my business. And nothing else really much happened. My intuition started coming in. I started noticing, I was starting getting more and more interested in how spirit space works. Because by trade, I'm a computer programmer. I have no knowledge. I didn't have a lot of knowledge of, a lot of people go to like school or seminars, things like that. I was really never into that. Basically, left brain guy.
How did you open yourself up to accept this knowledge that you are tapped into now?
Well, after my second near-death experience, I was really literally guided by that space. And people throughout life, they always want to chase something, and chase that spirituality that we have. But in that sense, once you're opened up to it, and that second near-death actually opened me up to it, I was guided by like step by step on what to do. And it's not like, okay, I have to do this. It's like when it's time, that present moment time, when I had to meditate, it was time to meditate, and I was drawn to do it at that time.
So you do healings with people, and you also can look at someone and you can see the spirits. Talk more about that.
That happened after my second near-death experience, where I was able to start seeing spirits. And a lot of times people think that, spirit is inside you, it's housed inside you. There's that saying that we're the temples, right, and your spirit lives. What I see is literally that bluish space that's in and around you, and that's that spirit space. And I thought as I got more familiar or more knowledgeable, I'd start to see like auras, because everybody talks about seeing auras. And I was getting the two confused, but literally I do see spirit space. And most people here see like the auric space, and that's where people see the colors. But your spirit is actually that beautiful blue essence, maybe a little lighter than what I saw after my second death. But it's similar to that, it feels the same, and it literally houses your physical body. And it creates the hologram of the body that we see. So we're all like shared hallucinations or shared dreams of that creation.
So when we talk about healing and the work that you do, to explain some of the healings that people experience in your sessions and what's going on. What does that mean, healing?
Healing, that's a really good, and I want to get away from that term because it's not really, and again, it's not me, I don't have that ability to heal, but what I do is literally the same source that I was introduced to at my near-death experiences, right, that connection point to that pure source. I call it pure source. Some people call it God or whatever they want to call it, but I just call it pure source just to get away from all the definitions. I just open that gate to introduce you to that without the near-death experience. So people, as far as your question goes, is the different experiences, like people who have had, say, curves. I do a lot of work on spinal issues, just because a lot of people have spinal issues. So I can adjust people literally just pretty much like a chiropractor, okay? But I do it at a frequency level, the core level, and that's why when I make adjustments, it doesn't take years and years and years, or sometimes you go to a chiropractor and it's like you go there forever. And nothing against chiropractors, but when I do work on people at that level, they go to their chiropractor, they find that it's a lot easier to adjust because I've changed them at a core level programming. So I've seen in extreme cases, I've seen like tumors disappear. People have had like stage 4 cancers. Their tumors have disappeared. I've seen people like relationships. They keep going into the wrong relationships. I can adjust their relationships. A lot of couples who have issues with a child, they go to like, they've tried thousands and thousands of dollars like in vitro fertilization, and I can work on them to get them healthier in that respect, so that they actually can bear children. So anything that you can really think of under the sun, it's really just frequencies, and I've just been given that ability in a nutshell just to edit or reprogram you and reprogram those frequencies.
So when you were working with a client or someone, do you see frequencies? Do you feel them?
I actually integrate with that individual. So whether it's personal, one-on-one, whether it's via phone, whether it's through you, because I can work through, like on a person through you. And I do that a lot with people who like addictive personalities and they're not into it, for example. They would never come see me. I can work on through their loved ones, through them. I can adjust your back. I can basically summon or connect to your core level programming. Just like a SIM card, how you can, those memory sticks, the memory sticks? Basically plugging your memory stick out and just plugging it in. It's like I have a memory stick reader and I can plug your memory stick in, just like read all the information about you. And basically more than what you would know about yourself as well. Because I can pick up, like say, past life issues, patterns that have come through what I call spiritual DNA. Patterns that, we seem to try to do things or try to break away from them, but because they're at a higher level that we're not aware of, or that we can't access or we can't control, And that's where a lot of people get stuck for 10, 15, 20 years, you know, going through trying to do the same pattern over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's literally changing that pattern, and then whatever needs to happen just starts happening for you. So, again, we're all just frequencies. You change your frequency, you change your life.
It gets really esoteric because you have helped explain books like The Keys of Enoch by J.J. Hertog that talks about the stepping down of the frequencies, and our spirit, our body is the hologram of our spirit.
True.
That's very
That
interesting.
Is so true.
So the healing then, are you, that connection that you have, do you go into a meditative state?
You know, I used to go through a meditative state, and you know, when I was first starting out, it would take me like an hour and a half to just go into that meditative state, and then it was like 15 minutes, and so on and so on. And even working on somebody, you know, it used to take me like an hour. And now I've gotten to the point that it's like I can turn it on just by like looking or having that intent. It's just like that for me. It's like it's so integrated with me. And before, what used to take me like an hour, and before I started my business in 2010. So it's not that long, like 2.5, 3 years, a little over 3 years actually. So, but now I can just get the same result maybe just by like touching somebody, looking at somebody, maybe 5-minute sessions, 10-minute sessions. They actually see that massive change, like almost instantaneously sometimes. So, or just that initial change on that.
And what do our minds and our thoughts have to do with this? That is the whole way our physical energy body is structured.
Yes.
and becomes into these patterns, right? So
it goes beyond your minds and thoughts. If you're a non-believer, it doesn't matter. Again, like I said, I work on people that don't even know that I'm working on them, and their lives shift. So it transcends all the mind stuff, because you know, you have like different energy patterns, and a lot of people that are out there really understand basically the physical energy systems, again, like auras, a lot of intuition, insights, a lot of modalities, healing modalities. You know, they're in that center, middle section of this space, and then you go a couple steps higher, and then you go into more of a spiritual, or your blueprint of that spirit or the experience that you've created. And that's the point. I literally help you redesign that blueprint, that core level. So it goes beyond the mind, way beyond the mind. And so it's an internal inside out rather than an outside in perspective. And people go, well, what do I have to do now? And I go, really nothing, just be aware. Because nothing else has to be done.
it's pretty simple.
It's very simple.
It's a great way for people to really ascend, which really is just remembering your connection to your higher self.
Exactly, that's what it is.
That's what ascension
Just like me,
is.
I didn't have to take like steps, although I had the near-death experience. But then from that, once I was open to it, everything just opened up to me. Everything that I needed for it to come to me, like, you know, the people, the places, the things, whatever it was I needed, it just like came to me. And that's what happens to people. You know, and I say that, and they go, it can't be. And, you know, thousands of people I've helped, and they've come back to me and go, it just happened to me. Whether it's like meeting that perfect mate, their job, money, whatever it is, it just happens.
That's amazing. So the word healing then could be seen as just a return to your pure state.
Yes. So that's, but healing again it's been used so much. I'm actually trying to think. We were wondering what I call myself, because I'm not really a healer. You know, there was a success energizer, but you know, it's more than just success. So exactly, I haven't created a title for it. Or I was like
Sacred geometric
being,
human.
You know, like a being consultant or something like that, because it's really about just being.
Beingness.
You know.
Let's go back and talk about spiritual DNA,
Okay.
because that seems to be some of the greatest work that people could do for themselves.
Yes.
So what about past lives that we bring into this life? And again, I have to ask, how do you see someone's past lives? Is it just your flashes of intuition?
It's more than
Images?
actual flashes. See, I think from what Kathy's been telling me, and well, a lot of people that just kind of know, you know, they're in the scene, you know, what other people are telling me, what other, like, a lot of my clients, they go to other healers and then they come back to me and they go, I'm very different. And the difference is that literally I integrate with that experience. It's not like a movie that a lot of people, it's not like I hear voices, that's more like channeling, but actually I'm in that same time frame or time event. So literally you can go back into those realities where things were created for you, those timeline events, and then I can edit it. Does that make sense? Or so
Yeah.
that's spiritual. So that's how I work, and that's what I see. It's nothing that I do get visuals, but I see it from your perspective. Literally. So do you know how you visualize your life? Mm-hmm. Right. I can connect to that and actually see it from your perspective, your point of view.
Okay.
So a lot of my clients that come to me, it's like, oh, you connected with me so well. It's like, well, because I did connect with you so well, because I turn it around and use the same terminology, words, examples that, you know, best fits you, because basically I'm inside your head the way you see yourself. But the nice thing about that is, you know, your intelligence or your information that you have about yourself is not just physical. It transcends back to all the lives that you've had in the past. You know, from the point that your spirit was created, it's all there, right? So literally, once you connect with yourself, it's like just accessing records. So I can see like past lives, and I see past lives as like file folders. And then, you know, you can pull file folders out. For me, I can literally pull and, oh, that's what happened. Or if there's something that just massively has affected you, that just like pops right up for me. And I can just like change it.
Because as we know, all time is here. All time is on top of each other.
Right.
Can you see future lives?
I can edit future lives for people. In fact, there was, in this seminar that we just had, you know, in Colorado, I helped in death, or people who are dying actually have there's telltale markers. And this individual that was at this seminar, I could see this like hovering cloud around him, and it wasn't just me; it was just a couple other people. But they didn't know what that was, and you know, I've just been experiencing it. It's like, oh, he must be exiting soon. So, and the funny thing is he had this inclination that he had to see me. And there was a lot of people in line to see me, and kept going in and out of the room. He goes, I wanted to leave because I had to leave, but you know, something just kept bringing back. That's your spirit that brings you back to me, because that spirit knows that I can help you. So anyway, he was going on a trip after it was late night, and I go, are you going to go on a trip? He goes, yeah, I'm going on a trip. I go, is it a car trip? He goes, yeah. In fact, it's going to be tonight. I go, well, don't go, because you know, I could just see like the future event. It's like he's going to fall asleep or something, roll over, and his spirit was actually getting ready for that, and that's why I was like kind of exiting beforehand. So I edited that for him where he didn't have to experience that. So he's still, you know, alive today. And
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
it's almost, I don't want to say that it's like, it's almost like spiritual suicide, or, you know, obviously you can't call it that, but basically it was like that because his life wasn't going the best. And for his spirit, that was his way, or that spirit's way of disconnecting from this world. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can really just access that information and just be, and then it's okay.
Wonderful, because you don't have any training or teaching, as so many light workers and spiritual workers around the world have been studying this, as you said,
Right.
and doing it, and it all corroborates what's out there.
Right. I don't. I've been in my meditations. I get all the downloads, information. I can connect to people and get it whatever information that you need. So no, I've had no formal teaching, and I'm kind of like the new kid on the block, just new, aware, just open. And they just, I just connect, and it just pops in. And again, it does corroborate because I see whether it's like quantum physics theories. It's like, oh, yeah, I picked that up. So that's what I was picking up, or some of the book that you were talking about. As far as your body being a hologram and all that. Yeah, it's just. So as and we can all connect to that space, and that's why all these stories basically corroborate, because that they're seeing what I'm seeing. I've just been given the ability to edit what we see.
The ability to edit what we see.
I'm a computer
really
programmer.
Good.
So
Yeah, well, see.
So I just use computer lingo.
So that's your purpose. That's why you were here, to come here and go down that route. And now you're reprogramming the human physical body.
Exactly. Just before I used to program computers. Now, I program people at a higher language. A lot of people see me move my hands when I work on them, and that's why even when I talk now, it's just a habit. But
so what is that? You're out in their field, their light body?
I am out in their field. It's beyond their light body, actually. It's like, you've got, if you think about it, it's like your body, your spirit space, and within that spirit space, there's like multiple programs, obviously, that keep running for you, and you can edit those, or I can edit those. And Don Estes, he's like a mathematician that has this program that actually sees or visualizes, turns into reality what I really see. And he basically has turned, it's amazing in a project, and I forgot the project, but we had a chance to do this in LA, where he hooked me up to his machine, and it goes through a supercomputer, and it starts to visualize. So when I started, say for example, this person that I was working on, her realities that were out there were, say, like at 100. So basically, like, she had 100 different realities that she could access. Okay, right, and that's the choices that we've made according to our blueprint. And then when I worked on her, that number from, say, like 100, and I'm just the numbers are real, but I'm just giving you as an example of what they actually meant. But the opportunities that opened up for her when I started working on her went like to about 500-600. So now she's got like 500-600 different realities that was open to her. Those possibilities, right, started opening up on how she feels. She had some chest issues, things like that. So those possibilities of realities were out there, and literally I can tap into those other realities now that are open for her, and then pull them in and integrate her current reality. And when you start doing that, her chest condition actually almost immediately went away. In fact, she didn't have to take her medication. And guys, I'm not like a doctor, so I can't suggest anything, but for her, she just forgot to take her medication, because at that time, she starts wheezing, she can't breathe. But after that, it's like she ran around all day. She had no issues. So that's what that program actually shows in visual form, what I do. And it's literally changing geometric structures, geometric forms, shapes. That's how sacred geometry came about. Because they were getting snippets, so it's like more of an in-depth form of that geometric shape, but it's more than just geometric shapes that are out there that we edit.
Okay, I just have
This
a
is
lot more
something different
questions.
for you, isn't it?
No, I have a lot more questions about
But I think it's kind of really opening you up to maybe a different way of thinking or looking at things. So.
We know everything is energy, and energy forms patterns, like sacred geometric patterns, but that we are those patterns as well.
Yes.
So when we're talking frequency, can you share with us maybe a process for elevating our frequency, for manifesting something that we desire?
Sure, just a couple caveats on that. A lot of times what we desire might not be exactly what we really need, or what we really want. If you think about it. So in what I try to tell people is actually, if you're going to have a mantra or any desire, just that desire to connect to pure source, really, and then everything else comes through. Because I had no desire to really be a healer. That wasn't in my reality or scope, right? Because I was a computer programmer. But then once that reality opened up, it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
It's simple.
It's very simple,
Connect.
And people get stuck with all this other stuff of I have to do this, I have to create, what I mean, mind pictures, dream boards, things like that, and they don't work as well. Just connecting to pure source.
It's so simple.
It's very simple, and to connect to pure source, the best way again is chanting or asking how to connect to pure source. That's about it. Once that happens, just like me, guys, you just naturally get guided. And it's very, very simple. I just do that process a lot easier for you.
It's fascinating that that your abilities have come in like this. Do you feel that this will happen on a larger scale for more people?
It is. People like me are coming out just to show everybody else, and I always use the Roger Bannister example. I don't know. Do you know who he is? He was the first guy that broke the 4-minute mile.
Okay.
And before then, nobody could ever break the 4-minute mile. So it was like news all over the world. And then a couple months later, there was a couple more people that broke, the 4-minute mile, and then years later, there's more and more, and now it's almost like a standard. It's like everybody can do, not everybody, but those professional runners, they can do the 4-minute mile. So yeah, I'm just pioneer, just showing everybody. It's like, hey, and I'm very basic, simple guy. I mean, if I can do it, just opening that space, so you guys can do it.
Did you ever, you were a computer scientist, computer programmer.
Yes.
And you never believed in any of this?
No. I mean, I always had like strong intuition, but it wasn't about, spirits or entities or, it was more of a physical form of, like everybody else, how to manifest, right? Because you kind of know that there's this higher power kind of helping you and then connecting. I was always into religion, so I read all the religious books trying to connect, just again for manifestation in this world, because that's what I was interested in. So, no, I was never into all these other things that I see out there. But now it's like, oh my God, I can edit all those things that I see with people.
That's pretty cool.
It is. It's fantastic.
Pretty cool.
And that core, I guess that core programming that you get to is really the cause of a lot of, I guess, I don't want to say distress, but distress in people's lives, because it is what it is. It's nothing good or bad at Spirit Space, but we call it not the best experience or whatever. So a lot of it comes from Spirit.
So in this great time of 2013, just crossed over the threshold of the Great Shift.
Yes.
What do you think is the most important thing going on for humanity?
It's actually becoming an awareness of knowing who you really are. Before there was the industrial age, mechanical, right? And then we were in the technology age, computers, all that. We moved into the communication age where everything is just like immediate, like with texting, the smartphones, we're connected. And that's really about connection. That next space that we're actually transcending into is really an awareness age of our own abilities of communicating, not only with other people or other spirits, but going beyond into who we really are. And then all the abilities that come with that, as far as manifestation, health, whatever it is, healing yourself. I mean, we see that all the time right now. Alternative healing is coming out. So that's the age that we're transcending into. And just as a note, the old systems, the old infrastructures have to like get remade.
Here we are.
That's what's...
Those old infrastructures have to be remade. So
Yes.
I ask this to all my guests this year so far. When we look around in this external world, there's things that so many feel their heart called to help correct. What is your advice for people to come up with those answers, to connect with those answers, to begin to make change, affect change that
Right.
so many want to see? We don't even have to say it. Fracking, global warming. How do we change that?
That's actually more of an awareness, and the reasons, and it might be a different opinion than some of the other people we've interviewed, but a lot of the times that we actually have, like, for example, the need to help the earth restructure itself, for example, the need to help clean waters, for example, the need to save the whales, help the hungry, those are all the needs that at spirit level are there because we want to have or feel the need to help people in those spaces. But in spirit space, if you really think about it, and the best way to help people like that is not physically, but just being aware spiritually, and then you don't need to have the need to help. If you really think about it, and I use this example a lot. In the 70s, as a young kid, in school, we made posters of helping people in Ethiopia, right, the hungry. It's the same thing today. It hasn't expanded. Breast cancer has increased. The war on anything, right, the war on drugs, the war on health, the breast cancer, they've all increased. And, we've poured millions of dollars, or actually trillions of dollars into that, right? We've helped children feed the starving, and it's gotten more and more, right? So obviously that system of what we're doing isn't working because we're doing things at a physical level. And we really have to go in, actually maybe be a little selfish, and actually go in and be aware of ourselves where we don't need the need to help. And I'm not saying helping is bad, guys, I'm not saying that at all. So know why you're helping. If it's helping just to make you feel good or to have a cause, whatever, you're just perpetuating that space. So just becoming totally aware where we can ascend to a higher level, where we don't need to have those experiences anymore. We can move on. It's like, okay, I've had this experience of global warming or oil spills or whatever it is. We don't need it anymore. Let's just ascend higher.
And again, ascension is connecting with your higher self, reconnecting with the higher self.
Yes, remembering.
That really is remembering. That really is ascension.
True.
And so, yes, let's talk a little bit about, as we close, dimensions. Dimensions.
Amazing.
Some people talk about, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. Are you in contact with beings in other dimensions?
Yes, I can summon people up.
Clarify a little bit about your description of dimensions, and do you travel freely?
Yes, I can travel freely. Again, I'm a little different than what I've known. Is I can actually access pretty much any dimension, and the reason why, if you look at it, this is the way I see the dimensions. There are different levels of dimensions, and we were talking about this with in the retreat, and people who are going into a different dimension maybe is not as high as what we think, but there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, and within those dimensions there are more dimensions, okay, that we have
like a sub-dimension.
Sub-dimension, yeah, exactly. And they're usually like in 7s or 13s or something like to that effect. But most people go into different dimensions, and that fourth dimension is really part of that physical space dimension. And then there's a couple other dimensions in between that get narrower and narrower, and then there's a bridge that goes into like the 5th, the 6th, the 7th dimension. And those dimensions you can't really sustain physically. Because if you're in that space for long periods of time, well, you wouldn't be in physical embodiment because you'd be vibrating so high. Okay? So I guess I'm one of the few, and this is what, from meditations and what some other people have been telling me, one of the few that actually have transcended into that bridge and gone on to the 5th, 6th, 7th, and that's where I get my abilities. But I never stay there for long periods of time, because I can't. But I can come into that knowledge base and bring that knowledge base back into this dimension. So that's what makes that difference.
It's interesting that you called it a bridge.
Yes.
Some call it a void.
A void.
The great void.
Yes.
Very interesting.
It is, and it's really tough to access that because it takes a lot of. You can go crazy accessing that space.
Because you're going through the astral?
Yes. And there's things that attack you, or all that.
That could be frightening. That could sound frightening.
Yes. So you have to really be prepared or be groomed to start going into those higher levels. It's just like going through boot camp. You know how you get strengthened? Mm-hmm. This is like spiritual boot camp.
Spiritual boot camp.
And then you have, what is it, the Green Beret, or the top-notch Navy SEALs, you know what I mean? There's only certain people that can actually go through the training, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people just can't go process that. So it's the same kind of thing. You were corroborating all the stories about the Tibetan masters who would travel in inner earth tunnels as well. So would you say that, well, okay, it's hard to go into those other dimensions, but when we're talking about New Earth, for example, mm-hmm. that really is just a different, higher frequency of reality? Yes. I mean, that New Earth is here already. Mm-hmm. We just kind of have to open that veil. How do we do that? Just becoming more aware. Again, it comes down to that. Being in the present moment. You don't have any other power. People think, you got to create these future events or, schedule future things, and there's no power in that. There's no power in the future. There's no power in the past. That's that time dimension. And anything now is like present moment. Being in the present moment, whether, you're scrubbing dishes, be in that present moment. And when you start doing that, it's I guess my whole philosophy that I teach, and I try not to teach, but I basically instill in people is that a lot of other modalities or teachings actually have you exit your body and connect, and then you come back in. Basically, what I adhere to is literally pulling your spirit into your body, so you can see life, daily life, through your spirit eyes, and that's what we're really here for. So once you start doing that, again, just by being so present, whether you're washing dishes, cleaning up, or even doing something that you hate, just knowing that, you actually start to enjoy it, but then you open up those realities that are really there for you, and then you get guided into what you really want. And then from there, it opens up the world to ascending higher. Beautifully so we get stuck, in the physical stuff that we do. Force things. Exactly. Yes, we try to plan and force, and really it's about surrender too. It is. It's all about surrender. But when you surrender, you have complete power. That's a great thing to remember. Yes. I mean, you have true power when you surrender. People think power is in money and all this. That's not at all. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. It was my honor. Anything we didn't touch on that you think is important for everyone today? The importance is, I guess, it's okay to be where you are. You created that. Love it. People always want to get out of that space, move to something else. But just be in that space and enjoy it, and you'll move to wherever you want to be.
Oh, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.